If I run for mayor of Philadelphia, and Philadelphia is mostly white, right? Whose interest am I going to serve after I win? It makes no sense for a black person to want to be the governor or the senator or the representative or the mayor for white people. It doesn't make any sense. And whenever, and do your research, if I'm wrong, prove it, whenever a black person wins office in an area that is predominantly white, and you can't prove this wrong in no city, at no state, at any time. Listen to me. Whenever a black person is elected to office in a jurisdiction that is predominantly white, the black people suffer. Show me where I'm wrong. Show me where I am wrong. You can't name a single black elected official, not a president, not a governor, not a mayor, not a state rep, not a state senator, not a U.S. rep, not a U.S. senator. You can't name me one who has ever been elected to office in a predominantly white area who actually made things better for black people. You can't name me one. You can't name me one. And that is why I'm telling you all, we need to form a national black political union. A national black political union where we debate it out and we invite the candidates in. Black people only. Excuse me, President Biden, you're running for re-election. You have a meeting with Black America. You have a town hall meeting with Black America. We have questions for you. Kamala Harris, you're running to be president. You have a meeting with Black America. If you do not show, you automatically do not get these 46 million votes. If you do not show, you automatically do not get these 46 million votes. That's how we should operate. The fact that most black folks are either Democrats or Republicans speaks to how politically uneducated we are, speaks to how loyal to the white power structure we are, speaks to the illusion of inclusion. It speaks to the illusion of inclusion. Now, let me get away from this for a minute. Congratulations, 3-man tag team championship. Wild Bill Clinton, Insane Obama, Crazy Joe, you have effectively won the title and hereby proven that the last 3 Democratic presidents have destroyed Black America more, far more, worse more than the last 3 Republican presidents. But Negroes are still in love with the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party owns the black church, and the Democratic Party donates to the black church, and the Democratic Party stays going to the black church. And the Democratic Party knows that as long as we got the church, we got the coons. As long as we got the black church in our pocket, we will always own the black vote. So let me segue for a quick minute. Is he Republican? You must not know who I am to ask such a silly question. You must not know who I am to ask such a silly question. You will never find me as a member of any white racist group. Okay? Not all churches. There you go with that nonsense. Not all churches. We understand there's exceptions to the rule. We understand that there are exceptions to the rule. But guess what? Exceptions do not break the rule. All snakes won't bite, but most of them will. All birds don't chirp, but most of them will. All black churches do not sell out the community, but most of them do. Stop focusing on the exceptions because you are in denial of the truth. We got a bad habit of doing that. Stop focusing on the exceptions because you are in denial of the truth. We have a bad habit of doing that. Stop focusing on the exception because you are in denial of the truth. Now let me talk to black parents for a minute. Let me talk to black parents for a minute. Black parents, as you all know, our children are dealing with unprecedented levels of racism. The type of racism that black children are experiencing in America right now haven't been seen in a long time. Our children are being beat by the police, killed by the police, called the N-word by their teachers. They're being forced to put their hand in toilets and unclog the toilets with their hands. They're being forced to act like slaves in the classroom. They're being forced to get down on their hands and knees and crawl around like animals. Jokes are being made about their skin, their hair, their lips, their nose. Black parents, listen to me. Because I'm the psychological chain breaker. I'm the psychological chain breaker. I'm the psychological chain breaker. Black parents, listen to me very well. I want the parents to listen. If you don't teach your child about racism, if you don't teach your child about white supremacy, if you don't help them understand what is happening to black people right now and why, if you are not proactive, if you try to ignore this, if you adopt a multicultural, they just need Jesus mindset, if you adopt the multicultural, they just need to take their Shahada mindset, if you try to explain away racism to your children using religion, guess what's going to happen? Your child is going to develop low self-esteem. Your child is going to develop a poor self-concept. And your child is going to develop insecurities around being black. I'm telling every black parent right now who can clearly tell that their child has been made aware that racism exists and that white people are racist, you need to start talking to your child about this situation. It is not going to go away, because if you do not interpret your child's experience for them, racism will, and it will have your child feeling ashamed to be black. You can no longer afford to act like America is not racist. You can no longer afford to act like white people are not racist. You have to teach your child about racism, or they will learn it by default from the American power structure. You must teach your child about racism, or they will learn it by default from the American power structure. You must teach your child about racism, or they will learn it by default from the American white power structure. I'm telling you now. Your child come home, mommy, they was calling me the N-word. They was talking about my hair. The teacher said we were slaves and the white man came and saved us from Africa because we was eating people and running around naked. You better explain to them why they're being lied to. And the reason why a lot of you are uncomfortable teaching the children the truth about racism is you don't want to tell them the truth about racism. Because the truth is too painful. And you've been brainwashed by the church and the mosque. Stop letting your religious brainwash affect your ability to teach your child about racism. You have to sit them down and you have to tell them, listen, sweetheart. You got to sit your children down and you have to tell them, listen, son. You have to sit your 4-year-old, your 5-year-old, your 6-year-old down. And people always ask me, Dr. Umar, what is the right age to teach a black child about racism? Dr. Umar, what is the right age to teach the black child about racism? Dr. Umar, what is the right age to teach the black child about racism? You know what the right age is? The right age? The right age to teach a black child about racism is once you can tell they know it exists. Once they know they are being treated differently because they're black, once your child knows that, you must teach them. I don't care if they're 3. I don't care if they're 4. I don't care if they're 5. I don't care if they're 6. I don't care if they're 7. As soon as your child becomes conscious of race and racism, it is the obligation of the black mother and father to tell them. How should you tell them? I would tell them about the ice and the sun man story. I will sit them down and say, son and daughter, let me tell you why the white people are treating you this way. First of all, you will not take it personally. You will not internalize it. They are racist. They suffer from a biopsychosocial mental illness that they acquired during the experience in the ice. They are a traumatized cave people. You will never take what they do literally, and you will never allow what they say to bother you. So once upon a time, son or daughter, God created the sun people. And the sun people lived under the sun. And they were the only people in the entire world, the sun people. And the sun people looked just like you. In fact, you are a descendant of the sun people. The sun people were a happy people. They were a honest people. They were a loving people. They were a compassionate people. And the sun people lived under the sun. And the sun provided the sun people with everything that they needed. They had food. They had jewelry. They had gold. They had diamonds. They had cows. They had birds. They had fresh drinking water. They had milk. They had fruit. If the sun people got hungry, they could climb up on a tree and get some bananas. They could get some strawberries, some blueberries, some oranges, some apples. Oh my God. The sun people lived in a paradise on earth. The sun people were so loving that they did everything for everybody. The sun people would never do anything unless everybody could benefit from it. There was no such thing as selfishness with the sun people. There was no such thing as I with the sun people. There was no such thing as me with the sun people. The sun people lived an abundant life under the sun. And the sun people viewed the sun as a great symbol of life. And the sun became the center of life. And the sun became the symbol for God. And the reason the sun became the symbol for God, because the sun was the closest thing to God, in that the whole universe revolved around the sun, just like everything in existence evolves around God. So the sun people were living, and the sun people were having fun, and the sun people were chilling out and just loving life. There were no murders with the sun people. There was no homelessness with the sun people. There was no hunger with the sun people. There was no jealousy with the sun people. There was no need for jealousy because there was enough to go around. There was no need for competition because everybody practiced Ubuntu. I am because we are. Ubuntu. We are because I am. That was the sun people. But then, for some reason, God created the ice people. Now, the ice people were a people who were stripped of their melanin, the chemical that makes your skin brown, and the chemical that makes your skin copper, and the chemical that makes your skin gold, and the chemical that makes your skin black. That's called melanin. And it is a divine chemical, this melanin. And only people with melanin can reach the highest states of spiritual consciousness. So for some reason, when God created the ice people, he stripped them of all their melanin. And so in being stripped of all their melanin, sons and daughters, they were not able to experience compassion. They couldn't experience love for other people. They didn't have any empathy for people who didn't look like them. And they lived in the caves without no sun. And because they didn't have the sun, they didn't grow bananas. They didn't have strawberries and blueberries. They didn't have no fish that they could hunt and feed their family. There was no meat to make shrimps. There's no meat to make a cheesesteak or some goat ribs. And they didn't have the gold and the diamonds and the copper for jewelry. And they didn't have the nice, warm, loving, abundant society. They had to crawl around on all fours in the caves. They hid in the caves because the cave was the only place they could find some heat. They had no melanin, so their bodies couldn't trap the heat inside. They didn't have no real food, so they had to eat the mice. They had to eat the roaches and the rats. They had to eat the varmint. And when ice people died, they had to eat each other. So they developed aggression. They became angry. There was never enough to go around. Unlike the sun people, there was always enough to go around with the sun people. But with the ice people, there was never enough to go around. So they had to deceive each other. They had to run con games with each other. They had to manipulate each other. And this is how the culture of the Iceman and woman evolved. And then one day, the Iceman and woman decided to leave the cave. And they tried to get away from the ice. So guess what? They ventured out of the ice box called Europe, and they ventured down, and before you know it, they was in the land of the sun. And they met the sun people, your great ancestors, who lived in Africa, the original land of the sun. And when our ancestors, the sun people, met their ancestors, the ice people, we embraced them like brothers and sisters. We taught them how to cook. We taught them how to build a family. We taught them how to raise kids. We taught them how to go hunting. We taught them how to pray to God. We taught them how to cook their food, how to clean their bodies, how to grow food, how to take care of animals, how to build boats to go fishing. We treated them like they were family because some people always look out for everybody. But that was a big mistake. That was a big mistake because the ice people, having developed a culture of deception, manipulation, dishonesty, they tricked our people into thinking that they were civilized. But the more the sun people helped the ice people became more jealous and envious of the sun people, and they plotted to take everything the sun people had. The reason the ice people are in charge, the reason the ice people are running things, boys and girls, isn't because they're smarter. It's not because they're wiser. It's not because they're more divine. It's because they're more malicious, more conniving, more deceitful, more cunning than the sun people. Some people are honest. Some people tell you how they feel. Some people have nothing to hide. Ice people will smile in your face and stab you in the back. Ice people don't know how to be honest with sun people. Ice people are jealous of some people for your melanin. They're jealous of some people for your history. And so, whenever the teacher mistreats you, whenever one of them ice students make a joke, I just want you to smile. And I want you to write it down. Because ice culture isn't based on honesty. So you have to write down everything they do and put it in paper, because ice culture is based on the belief that only what's on paper is true. Sun people, our word is our bond. If you're a sun man or a sun woman, our word is our bond. So if we make a verbal agreement, we're good, because that's how sun people live. But ice people don't live like that. Ice people will tell you one thing to your face and another thing on paper. So whenever the teacher does something wrong to you, I want you to write it down. Whenever one of the students do something wrong to you, I want you to write it down so mommy and daddy could write a letter to the principal and request a meeting so we can get these ice people in check. You are African. You are people of the sun. Don't you ever let what they do bother you. They are the victims of a biopsychosocial climatic traumatic event in history. They have a biopsychosocial psychopathology. See, you're the sun people. You develop a sun temperament. You're warm, you're happy, you're mild, you're compassionate. That's what sun people do. Ice people are mean, evil, deceptive, cunning. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you do. Because the ice people have declared war on the sun people, but they have not told us. So mommy and daddy need you to go to school and watch what you say and watch what you do, because the ice people are always watching to try to take you down. Don't be scared. Don't be apprehensive. Live your life. But never forget where the ice people come from and why they act the way that they act. Do you have any questions for mom or dad? That is what we need to do. Teach our children why they are going through what they are going through. Yes, this is sun versus ice. And it's not only sun versus ice, it is sun versus sand. Because just like you got the ice man, you got the sand man. And that Arab, he's something else. I'm not going to speak negatively about all Arab people. But let's be honest, as a rule, they generally do not like Africans. So you have to teach your children about the sand people and how they developed a mean, nasty, inhumane character as a result of their evolution in the sand. Hot with no water. You got to teach them about the ice people. They developed a mean, nasty, inhumane character as a result of their ice trauma. No food. And then you got to tell them about the mountain people, the Asians, the mountain people. They also had some traumas up in the mountains. See, all three of those groups come from Asia. Which is why I don't know why Negroes running around talking about they Asiatic black men. But nonetheless, the European, the Arab, and the Asian are all Asiatics. The Iceman, the Sandman, and the Mountain Man are all Asiatics. They are cousins. That's why the Arab is considered a white man for purposes of the U.S. Census. That's why the Sandman is considered an Iceman for purposes of the U.S. Census. If you don't believe me, Google the census and look at the racial groups. Arab is white in the United States of America. Arab is white in the United States of America. Arab is white in the United States of America. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And when the Chinese first came to America, do your research on the Chinese. They fought in court to be considered white. The Chinese fought in court to be considered white, but they lost. The Chinese fought in court to be considered white, and they lost. The Mexicans and Latinos fought in court to be considered white, and they lost. And that's how they got the word Hispanic. That's how they got the word Hispanic. So everybody wanted to be white so they could unite with the Iceman to destroy the Sunman. And the other thing we need to understand, is that, and I'm talking to the adults now, we did our Send a Nice Story for the children. My point being, you have to teach your child in language they can understand what's happening, why it's happening, and how they should respond. Okay? Now, black people have to get over this idea that we have allies, because a lot of us have this idea that we have allies. We don't have no allies. Nobody in America is going to help black people get equality. No, if you know of a group in America that's willing to fight for black people to get equality, can you please post it? Can you please post it? If you know of a group that's going to help black people get equality, who is going to fight with us so we can become equal? Who? European Jews? Tried it, didn't work. Latinos? Tried it, didn't work. Who you going to get? LBGTs? You can forget it. Who you going to get? I'm still waiting for you multicultural Negroes to name me one ethnic group who want to fight with black folks to help us get free. Name me one. We have no friends. We have no allies, but we keep on acting stupid like we don't know that this is the truth. Even some of you coons in the chat. Some of the coons in the chat is like, well, some people will help us. We're not dealing with individuals. We're dealing with groups. Stop being a Negro. See, the Negro can only think about himself. The Negro has no group reference point. That is what makes us dysfunctionally unique. That is one of the things that makes us dysfunctionally unique. The American Negro has no group frame of reference. He can't even think in terms of a group. This is your problem. The European Jew can think in terms of a group. The Chinese can think in terms of a group. The Mexican can think in terms of a group. The Puerto Rican can, the Latino can think in terms of a group. The Irish, the Italian can think in terms of a group. The Negro cannot think at all in terms of his group. The only group that the Negro can think in terms of is religious or fraternal. The only time the Negro can put the group first is if it's a church, a mosque, or a frat. If I'm wrong, prove it. If I'm wrong, prove it. If I am wrong, prove it. The only time the American African can think in terms of group, a group reference, the we versus the I. The we is the I. The only time we can put the I to the side for the we is if it's religion or fraternity. If I'm wrong, prove it. If I'm wrong, prove it. I bought some books from the used bookstore the other day. Y'all want to see my new books? Because you know we got the book club, Camden, New Jersey. For those of y'all who live in the Philadelphia area, Dr. Umar Book Club will be meeting in Camden, New Jersey. I'm getting that ready right now. About to choose our first book, the Dr. Umar Book Club. Let me show y'all the new books I got. Check out the used bookstores. Support the black bookstores. Always support the black bookstores. But make sure you check out the used bookstores because there's a lot of books that are out of print that you can get at the used bookstore. I'm going to show you some of the books I got. Born to Rebel, autobiography of Benjamin Mays, who was one of the leaders of the civil rights struggle. So I like to read biography and autobiography. The Dr. Umar Book Club will be reading a lot of biography and autobiography. And the reason why biography and autobiography is so good because you get to see how people who lived before you struggled and overcame their challenges. It's very motivational, very inspirational to read the background stories of our ancestors. So I'm going to read Born and Rebel by Benjamin Mays. $8 book. It cost me $8. Used bookstore in North Philadelphia. Paul Robeson Speaks. Now, Paul Robeson was a socialist, but he was also an associate of the most honorable Marcus Messiah Garvey. Paul Robeson is one of the greatest minds that we ever produced. He died right here in Philadelphia. Paul Robeson. He was a Renaissance man, actor, author, singer, organizer. The FBI watched him. I think they took his passport. He was put on a list of subversives. Very intelligent, well-spoken brother. He's him and James Baldwin, I would kind of put kind of equal there. So I'm going to be reading Paul Robeson Speaks. These are his speeches and his writings. The Kidnapped and the Ransom. It'd be hard to find this book. This is the book of William Still. If you saw the Harriet Tubman movie, William Still, right here in Philadelphia, okay, was one of the conductors of the Underground Railroad, and he compiled the largest collection of escaped slave narratives of anyone who participated on the Underground Railroad. Well, The Kidnap and the Ransom is the story of how William Still met his own brother, either two brothers or brother and sister, when they walked into the Philadelphia Underground Railroad office and told their story of how they escaped from slavery and talked about their mother and father. And when they started talking about their mother and father, William Still realized that he was talking to his brother and sister, and they were reunited at the Philadelphia Underground Railroad office. And this is the book, The Kidnapped and the Ransom. Army Life in a Black Regiment. This is a book by a white officer of a black Civil War regiment. I had two grandfathers who served in the Civil War and two cousins, the sons of Frederick Douglass. So I have four ancestors who served in the Civil War. So I'm a very big Civil War buff historian. So I'm going to read this because it's going to talk about the life of black men in the Civil War in the black units. A Sword Among Lions, boy. I'm almost certain we'll be reading this for the book club at some point, because Ida B. Wells is second only to and maybe even equal to Harriet Tubman. Ida B. Wells is second only to and may even be equal to Queen Mother Harriet Tubman. I love this woman. Single-handedly investigated the lynchings of black people in the South under the threat of death. She's one of my favorite sheroes, Ida B. Wells. Proudly we came as Africans. This is the story of African Americans reconnecting with Africa from 1935 to 1961. This is the story of African Americans, Pan-Africanism in the years between Garvey's death and Ghana's independence. This is the story of Pan-Africanism between Garvey's death and the independence of Ghana. Old classic, Blacks in Science, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, who I think is one of our greatest African historians, African anthropologist, and overall Africologist, Ivan Van Sertima. And then I got a book on African spirituality, The Religion, Spirituality, and Thought of Traditional Africa. The Religion, Spirituality, and Traditional Thought of Africa. I'm a bookworm. My last book, The Montgomery Bus Boycott and the Women Who Started It. This is the story of the Montgomery Bus Boycott told through the eyes of the black women who were there. Okay? Sometimes, brothers, we can be sexist, right, in the way we approach the struggle, and we tend to leave our sisters out. So this is the women of the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Dr. King led it, but it was the women who made it. And this is the story of the women who led and helped the Montgomery bus boycott to become so successful. You see? So this is what we do, brothers and sisters. It's all about knowledge yourself. Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. Hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Hit the Cash App, $FDMG School. Hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Hit the PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. Mail in your donation. P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware 19809. P.O. Box 9634, Wilmington, Delaware 19809. If you need to reach the Prince, 215-989-9858. If you need to reach the Prince, 215-989-9858. If you need to reach the Prince of PanAfrikanism, 215-989-9858. Boston, Massachusetts, Black Parent Boot Camp this Saturday from 8 until 8. Come to Boston. Come to Beantown, Boston, Massachusetts this Saturday, April the 10th from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. is the Black Parent Boot Camp. Register at drumarjohnson.com. Lunch will be provided. Register at drumarjohnson.com. Book signing in Boston Friday. Book signing in Boston Friday. Book signing in Boston Friday from 2 to 8. Good Shepherd Church, 18 Whittier Street. 2 to 8 this Friday in Boston. Good Shepherd Church, 2 to 8 p.m., 18 Whittier Street in Roxbury. Augusta, Georgia, first time, Thursday the 15th. Next week, next Thursday, Augusta, Georgia, next Thursday. Next Friday, Atlanta, Georgia, College Park. Walmart parking lot. 3:30 in Atlanta, next Friday. Next Thursday, Augusta, next Friday, Atlanta. Then what? May 1st, Shreveport, Louisiana. May the 14th was supposed to be Tulsa, but it might become Palm Springs, California. May 14th was supposed to be Tulsa, but it might become Palm Springs, California. May 14th was supposed to be Tulsa, but it might become Palm Springs, California. 15th and 16th is Oakland in L.A. Lecture and book signing. Oakland in L.A. May 15th and 16th, Saturday and Sunday, 2 until 8. South Bend, Indiana, Sunday, May the 23rd. South Bend, Indiana, Sunday, May the 23rd. Black Messiah Conference. June 4th, 5th, and 6th, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Mooresville, North Carolina. June 4th, 5th, and 6th, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, Mooresville, North Carolina. That's a 3-day Carolina. We're going to knock it out the park. If you need the flyer, text me. If you need the flyer, text me. But as I conclude, brothers and sisters, I just want to say that we're going through some things right now. Black America is going through some things right now. And we got to get organized. The racism is getting worse. The oppression is getting worse. Let's come together. It's time to come together. Turn off social network, pick up a book. Turn off social network, pick up a book. You should have a study group with your children. Every parent of children should have a study group. Get a book that's on their level about consciousness and history. Get a book that's on their level about consciousness and history. But every family should have their own study group. Every family should have their own study group. And for those of you who will be signing up, for those of you who will be signing up, for those of you who will be signing up for the Dr. Umar Book Club in Camden, New Jersey, that information will be coming soon. The Dr. Umar Book Club in Camden, New Jersey. That information will be coming soon. Pan-African Fast, June 10th to July 1st. Get ready. The Pan-African Fast from June 10th to July 1st. Get ready. The Pan-African Fast. That's going to be all for now. The Prince of Pan-Africanism. I love y'all. One love.